All right, so we are group 6 and we are doing our presentation on veterans benefits. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. And present. So like I said, we're group 6. We're talking about veterans benefits. So we're just going to go ahead and get started.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a veteran story. This is my friend Rianne, and she's currently an IT2 in the U.S. Navy, which is an Information Systems Technician second class, also known as E5. And she works on computer networks and telecommunications that support the entire fleet worldwide. Currently, she's in active duty, and I spoke to her about when she is a veteran, what she's going to do, as well as what she has right now. And as far as veteran benefits go, she has not yet used any of them. She is currently using the tuition assistance program to pay for school, which is a program that covers tuition costs while you're an active duty member. She hopes to obtain her bachelor's degree using solely tuition assistance so that she can save her GI Bill to benefit when she does her master's degree if she chooses to when she gets out of the Navy. Another option that she's considering is re-enlisting to complete 10 years of service so that she can transfer her GI Bill to Leo, which is her son. A service member that completes 10 years of active duty service is then eligible to transfer their GI Bill to a child or spouse. So she's thinking this is a great idea to help her cover Leo's college tuition down the line. She knows a lot of people in the military who will serve long enough just so that they can be able to provide that for their families. Another benefit she's thinking is utilizing the Veteran Affairs Home Loan, which can help her secure a home at a decent price and interest rate when she's ready. So right now she's saving for this and hoping that when she settles down and she's in civilian life, she'll be able to use these veteran benefits. All right, next slide.
All right, I'm Mike, and I'm going to be talking about the goals and later the eligibility of the VA program. The goal of the VA program is pretty basic. It's to fulfill Lincoln's promise, which is to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow, and for his orphan, by serving and honoring the men who have become America's veterans. And what I like about this goal, because is that it's clear and it's concise. It shows what the mission of the VA is, and I actually very much agree with what the mission of the VA is. I think this is a very important thing the VA needs to do. Next slide, please. So this slide is about the eligibility for people who want to partake in the programs that the VA offers. Currently, only those who have been on active duty and were discharged or released under honorable conditions are eligible to receive the VA. That makes sense in a lot of ways, because if you're dead, on the one hand, you can't receive any benefits yourself. Your family may be able to receive some, but you can't. And if you've been dishonorably discharged, then most likely the military would want to sever ties with you completely. So that makes sense. However, this is a point of controversy a little bit, because this also means that members of the National Guard and the Army's Reserve are generally not eligible for veterans benefits unless they have been injured during their basic training or their advanced training, or on a weekend drill, or sometimes in the 2-week summer training program. This is problematic for many people because people who train in either the National Guard or the Army Reserves and in a bunch of other military units do go through the same training that people in active duty do. And even though they may be in the reserve, they have to be available to be called onto active duty. My friend Jack is a member of the Army Reserves, and he actually was just recently called to protect the base in Qatar, and he had to leave his wife and leave his family, and he will be, for the next 9 months to 2 years, he's going to be on active duty in Qatar. And so for that reason, and also you have to consider the fact that people in the National Guard and in the Army Reserves do something that is important to the country, and they can also be injured and or killed in the line of duty. So for all these reasons, people think that they should also be included in the veterans benefits. I just want to touch very clearly on the transcultural perspective in this case, because this does relate in some sense to the transcultural perspective, because there are people who believe that the VA is currently acting in an impractical way, and to view it within the transcultural perspective would allow it to continue to act in an impractical way and give it more hoops to jump through. These people believe that veterans should be treated more as a homogenized and monolithic group, because this would allow veterans to have more direct access to their benefits and have less hoops for them to jump through. Think of the way, for example, we treat 16-year-olds who want to get a driver's license, or 18-year-olds who want to register to vote, because in both cases, everyone is treated the same, and thus they have only one hoop at most to jump through. And so with that, I would just like to say that in terms of eligibility, I think the program is pretty strong. I think it's I understand at least why they would say that those who are on active duty and honorably discharged would be able to receive benefits through the VA, but I think it should grow to extend to people who have been in the Army Reserves or the National Guard. And with that, I'm going to pass the baton on to my lovely teammate.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about veteran benefits and later on international comparison. So first I'm going to talk about transitional assistance, and it's called TAP, which is Transitional Assistance Program. And during TAP, they go through a transitional GPS, which is a goal, plan, and success, which is a series of modules that helps them to pursue their post-service goals and develop an individual plan so that when they are in the civilian life, they're able to have some type of success. For compensation, there's disability compensation, which is a monetary benefit that is given to veterans with disabilities. Either they gained a disability while on active duty, or they already had a disability and it was aggravated during active service. They have the dependency compensation, which is a payable amount to a surviving spouse, child, or parent of service members who died while on active duty for training, or service, or survivors of veterans who died from service-connected disabilities. They have a special monthly compensation, which is paid due to a special circumstance, such as they are in need of aid, they have to always be in attendance of another person, or they have a specific disability, such as the loss of an arm or a leg. Next slide, please. So for education and training, the term GI Bill refers to any Department of Veterans Affairs education benefit, and it could be earned during members of active duty, selective reserve, and National Guard armed forces, as well as their families. The benefit is designed to help service members and eligible veterans cover the costs associated with getting an education. And like I explained with my friend Rianne in the beginning, that for somebody who's on active duty for more than 10 years, they're also able to give the GI Bill to their families, and a lot of people do that to give that benefit to their loved ones. There's the post-GI Bill, which provides education benefits for those who have served in active duty for 90 days or more after September 10th, 2001. The Montgomery GI Bill provides education benefits to veterans and service members who have served at least 2 years on active duty. There's the Fry Scholarship, which is available to children and spouses of service members who died in the line of duty after September 10th. There's Veterans Education Assistance Program, which is VEAP, which is a person in the military can make contributions to help pay for their education when they get out. Next slide, please. So there are special groups who receive different types of benefits depending on their situation. So for elderly veterans, they have aid and attendance, and it's an increased monthly pension amount that is paid if a person needs help to do daily functions, if they are bedridden, if they are in a nursing home, and if their eyesight is limited. And there's also housebound, which is a pension that people receive if they're confined to their premises because of a permanent disability. For Gulf War veterans, a lot of people who were in the military have, during the Gulf War, have medically unexplained illnesses, popularly called the Gulf War syndrome. So any veteran who had served 90 days or more continuously during that time is eligible to receive these benefits. For incarcerated veterans, they have Healthcare for Reentry Veterans Program. And the primary goal of that is to help prevent veterans from becoming homeless once they are reintegrated back into the community. There's Veteran Justice Outreach Initiative, which their main goal is to avoid unnecessary criminalization, help those who are coming out of incarceration with their mental illness, and helping them to get back on their feet. For Korean War benefits, a lot of people who were veterans who experienced cold injuries may have medical conditions due to how cold it was during the Korean War. So some things that they suffer from is skin cancer with frostbite scars, arthritis, stiff toes, and they're really sensitive to cold. So if they have any cold-related problems, and they were part of the Korean War, they are eligible for those benefits. The Native American veterans have the Direct Loan Program, which helps to finance the purchase, construction, or improvement of homes that are on federal trust land, and also to reduce the interest rate on such loans. They also have the Office of Tribal Government Relations, which helps to make sure that Native American veterans are receiving all of the help that they need. They also, for women veterans, they have Center for Women Veterans, which is a organization and a center that helps to advocate for the cultural transformation that recognizes women in the military and helps raise awareness so that women can be treated with dignity and respect. And they also have the VA benefits for survivors of military sexual trauma, and they provide confidential counseling and treatment for mental and physical health conditions related to military sexual trauma. Next slide, please. So here is the international comparison of benefits. So I did it between the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada. So for all 4 countries, they all compensate veterans for any assessed disability incurred during service. For rehabilitation, in all 4 countries, veterans received medical, health, and rehabilitation treatment for any service-related injuries. However, the delivery of this treatment varies. So the United States is the only department which manages and delivers the rehabilitation treatment themselves. And Canada and Australia, the veterans go to an outside treatment and receive it from an external service. For health services coverage, the United Kingdom provides the most coverage to its citizens, but does not provide any additional coverage for veterans, whereas Canada and Australia provide citizens a similar degree of health service coverage. In Canada, veterans with a service-related rehabilitation need can receive health coverage for themselves and their family, and they're charged a small monthly charge. In Australia, any veterans with a severe disability or veterans who are deemed to be low income receive free coverage. The United States, which provides the least amount of health coverage for its citizens, provides the most health coverage for their veterans. So all veterans are eligible for health care based on, they do a test called the means test, and also they give it to based off of their threshold of how much they make. So for career transitional support, all 4 countries provide clients with vocational training, employment services, one-on-one support, and job finding assistance. And in addition, the United States is the only country which provides all veterans up to 36 months of educational benefits, regardless of how long they were on active duty. So in conclusion, when it comes to comparing international veterans benefits, Canada was the most favored because it offered the most comparable and most holistic approach when it came to assisting the veterans. I'm going to pass it on to Courtney.
Hi, so I'm Courtney, and I'm going to talk about the administration of the Veterans Association benefits. So first off, when looking at the administration of it, it's administered by the federal government. So the federal government, the president proposes a budget, and which we'll talk about in the next part. It's then passed on down to the Department of Finance, where it's passed and voted on by Congress and whatnot. And then, well, yeah, and then it's with then it goes down to the VA. And then from there, from the Department of Finance, you could also kind of go across because states do provide some benefits to veterans. However, it is relatively small amount, just because the VA it covers so much already. So there's really no reason for the states to sink a bunch of money into it, and to charge a lot of taxes for that. However, with that said, as we've talked about before, Dominique covered all the benefits. There's a lot, as you could tell. There are some state benefits. Again, they also have their own tax breaks that they can sometimes give veterans, like on home loans and whatnot. And there's also, again, they also have their own sort of college tuition sort of tax breaks as well. The VA. It's also considered an institutional sort of government process, just because it takes the approach that everyone who is eligible for the program deserves support by the community and the government without any overt request for help. They do have to apply, however, but as long as you qualify, you're fine. There's equal opportunity for help. It's offered to everyone that is eligible for it. Just like a lot of, in my opinion, like I sort of feel like this section is, there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of limitations. So as we kind of talked about, there's a lot of the eligibility aspect. You have to be eligible, but sometimes there are people out there who really need the help, and they don't always get the help that they need. And because the majority of the money is slotted for the VA through the federally and not for the state, states sometimes have like lower eligibility rates and stuff, so that you don't have to, you can apply and you can get state benefits, but not necessarily the veterans benefits, which can be pretty tricky and difficult, and it's can be pretty devastating for some people because of that. So I'm going to pass it off to my next teammate here to talk about the finances and how our budget is broken down for that.
Hi, my name is Oladoyin, and I'm going to be talking about the VA finances and the budget. The VA is fully funded by the United States government through the taxpayers' money. Every year, the United States President makes the yearly budgets for the VA, and that is to fulfill the mission of the VA, which is to fulfill President Lincoln's promise to provide Americans' veterans, their families, and survivors the care and benefit they have earned through their service. That being said, the fund is managed by the Office of Management and Budget, OMB. The Office of Management and Budget serves the President of the United States in overseeing the implementation of his vision, which is to provide services for veterans and their survivors. OMB's mission is to assist the President in meeting his policy, budget, management, and regulatory objectives, and to fulfill the agency's statutory responsibility. The President, in his 2018 budget, allocated $186.5 billion to the VA. This budget is broken down into two categories, which are the discretionary resources and mandatory funding. 44% of the budget is to discretionary resources, which is about $82.1 billion. And this is to help with the medical care of the veterans. The VA runs one of the nation's largest healthcare services in the United States. It serves about 9 million veterans. The mandatory funding is about 56% of the budget, which amounts to $104.3 billion. And this helps to pay for compensation, pension, readjustment benefits, veterans insurance, and endowment accounts. The next slide. This slide will give you an overview of how many veterans are being served with this budget. In 2018, it is estimated that about 9.3 million veterans will be enrolled in the VA services all over the United States. Therefore, the budget will also provide for disability compensation program for 4.6 million veterans and 420,000 survivors. Pension benefit program for 289,000 veterans and 204 survivors. The VA also runs one of the nation's largest life insurance program covering veterans, present service members, and their family. Education assistance program serving nearly 1 million students, vocational rehabilitation, employment benefits for over 144,000 veterans. The budget will also include a home mortgage program with a portfolio of over 2.6 million active loans. And the VA also runs the largest and the highest performing national cemetery system, projected to intern about 133,000 veterans and eligible families in 2018. The next slide is just going to give you a visual representation of the budget. Remember, I said the 2018 budget is $186.5 billion. And this is divided into two categories, mandatory versus discretionary. The mandatory is 56% and discretionary services is 44%. For the discretionary services, the next graph is just showing you that it's broken down into medical program, which takes about 89% of the budget. And this medical program is to help fund the VA's healthcare program and healthcare system. The VA runs about 17 different healthcare services all over the United States, and 3.7% benefit programs. And for information technology is 4.9%. Construction will take 1.2%, and then others is 1.2% too. I'll pass it on to Mike to just give you a conclusion and.
Yes. So as you can see, the VA does do a lot of great things. It provides very important services to people that really need those services. But there are also ways in which they can improve what they do. Namely, they can find ways to, first of all, expedite the process, because currently it takes at least 90 days for any veteran to receive services that he or she needs, which can be very problematic, obviously, for the veterans involved. Also, people believe that generally the ratio between veterans benefits to overall defense spending is too high and that it needs to be closer to a 1-to-1 ratio. Basically, the belief is that if you can't afford to pay for the benefits of the veterans that you're sending into war, then it means that you can't really afford to go into war and that you shouldn't go into war, therefore, at all. And I already mentioned, as I mentioned before, there is some conversation going on about changing the eligibility requirements to include those people who have not been in active service, such as in the National Guard or the Army Reserves. Because again, as an example, I have a friend named Jack who is in the National Guard and is actually looking to go. Well, he was actually called into action and is now serving in Qatar. Defending one of our military bases there, and so therefore he and his compatriots should be eligible for these benefits because they have to be trained and ready to go at a moment's notice, even if they don't get called into active duty. So that's it. That's all we have. It was a really interesting subject. And that's it. And if you have any more questions, we have a list of references at the end of the slide, different articles, different websites you can visit. A lot of those sources will answer those questions for you.
We also have here a lot of information can also be found on the Veterans Association website, which is here on this slide. There's a lot of great information. A lot of us got our information from that, as well as you can see, multiple other sites, like how Mike had said. So we hope that you enjoyed our presentation and that you learned a lot. We certainly did. Yeah, so hope you enjoyed it. Okay.